A Speech by Hamdi Ali. The attempt to fit a 1,000-years-old Somali nation into a 19th century European framework. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, today I want to speak about a profound misunderstanding, one that sits at the heart of every debate about Somalia, Somaliland, borders, recognition, and the future of the Horn of Africa. It is the repeated attempt by diplomats, analysts, and foreign governments to fit a thousands-years-old Somali nation into a 19th century European Westphalian framework. This is not just an intellectual mistake. It is a distortion that shapes policy, fuels conflict, and blinds the world to the reality of who the Somali people are. Let me begin with a simple truth. Somali nationhood did not begin with colonialism, and it will not be defined by it. For thousands of years, long before Britain, Italy, or France drew their lines on a map, the Somali people lived as one cultural world, united by heritage, by language, by faith, united by pastoral life, united by zir, united by poetry, united by memory. A nation not created by borders, but by bonds. And this unity was not fragile. It survived empires. It survived invasions. It survived every power that looked at the Horn of Africa and imagined it could be conquered. Yet, when the Somali question is raised today, what do we hear? We hear about the British protectorate. We hear about colonial treaties. We hear about administrative boundaries drawn by people who barely understood the land they were dividing. We hear arguments that treat a brief colonial episode as if it were the defining chapter of Somali history, while ignoring the centuries and millennia that came before it. This is the mistake. This is the distortion. This is the attempt to force Somali nationhood, ancient, organic, resilient, into a European model of the nation-state that was never designed for Somalis and is unfit to explain us. The European model assumes borders create nations. The Somali experience shows nations can exist without borders. The European model assumes centralized bureaucracy is the foundation of political life. The Somali experience shows that social contracts, clan federations, and negotiated authority can sustain a civilization. The European model assumes identity is territorial. The Somali experience shows identity can be cultural, linguistic, spiritual, and still stronger than any empire. So when foreign governments debate Somaliland recognition, they often do so through the wrong lens. They treat colonial borders as if they were sacred. They treat legal technicalities as if they were history. They treat Somalia as if it were an artificial creation, when in fact, the artificial creation was the colonial map that divided one people into 5 borders. Somali unity is not a political slogan. It is a historical fact. It is a cultural inheritance. It is a lived reality that predates every modern institution. This does not mean Somalis have no disagreements. It does not deny grievances, wounds, or the political failures of recent decades. But it does mean that any discussion about the future must begin with an honest understanding of the past. A nation that survived thousands of years of external pressure cannot be understood through a framework invented in Europe 2 centuries ago. A people who resisted every empire cannot be reduced to the wishful thinking and paperwork of colonial administrators. And a civilization that has endured drought, war, displacement, and political collapse, yet still speaks one language, still shares one faith, still recognizes one another as kin cannot be dismissed as a failed state. Somalis are not a failed state. Somalis are a successful nation navigating a failed framework imposed from outside. The world must learn to see us as we are, not as the colonial map imagined us to be. If the international community wants to engage with the Somali question honestly, it must abandon the idea that European borders define African nationhoods. It must recognize that Somali identity is older, deeper, and more enduring than any protectorate or mandate. And it must understand that the future of the Somali people cannot be built on the misunderstandings of the past. Our nationhood is not up for debate. Only our political arrangements are. And those arrangements must be shaped by Somali history, Somali culture, and Somali agency, not by the frameworks of others. Thank you.